And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lane, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. Oh, it's been beautiful. I've been outdoors every morning, every evening. This is why we live in Arizona. It's just so nice here. So it's okay. It was a little chilly further into spring, but boy, when the weather turns nice, it stays that way like through October, first part of November. It's just beautiful. I love it. So, looking at those vistas, overlooking the dells, sipping a glass of wine, watching the hummingbirds are going crazy right now with my flowers. And so I did notice there's some things I've been doing in my gardens that, will make a difference a little bit later on. So I love lilac. And so I've got several lilacs. I've got some standard sized ones. These are huge. They get 9 feet tall. They're shading the west side of my house. So they keep things cool. That's great. So they lose their leaves in the winter. So I get some radiant heat. They put on foliage during the summer. So it cools things down. They're big. Typically, your standard lilacs, they'll bloom one time in the spring, and then there's just this beautiful, nice, lush green shrub. I also have a series of repeat blooming or miniature or dwarfed size lilacs. So these are called bloomerangs. There's several names. If you have repeat blooming lilacs, you should really deadhead or take off those spent flowers. So this last weekend, I took out the dead spent flowers. So they've bloomed out. They were blooming for the last couple months, and now they're just putting nice green foliage on. They're standing about hip high. That's about as big as they get. And when I trim them, I give them just a real light haircut, keeping them shaped. I don't want them to go over and get too wide and take over that space. But mainly what I'm doing, I'm actually taking the spent flowers off so that plant focuses on setting new flowers. Now, if I do this now and fertilize it right now, so I've fertilized everything, my lilacs especially, and I took the spent flowers off. I'm setting the stage for when the monsoons finally hit, typically in July sometime. So another month off, that plant will start to repeat bloom again, a second time. So these are called repeat blooming lilacs. They're much like roses. So roses do the same thing. In spring, they put this huge flush of flowers on that's so fragrant. They're continuing right now. When they're done blooming, they'll take a break. And so if you could go through and deadhead those flowers off of that plant, they'll focus their energy on setting more flowers. So you can get them to pulsate waves of flowers more often. And so that's the secret, deadheading. This works on perennials. It works on annuals. If you take the spent flowers, so the way a plant thinks, what they're trying to do is reproduce themselves. And so they're using flowers to attract pollinators, to help pollinate their flowers back and forth, male and female parts kind of doing their thing on the plant. And the bees, the moths, the butterflies, that's what their job is, to cross-pollinate flowers. And so when they do that and it's properly done, they'll set seed. And so now the plant focuses all of its energy on putting seed out instead of flowers. They're going, okay, my job here's done. I've bloomed, I've pollinated, can now reproduce by setting a seed. And so by deadheading or taking that pollinated flower off the plant literally goes, oh no, what am I going to do? I didn't set seed. Oh, I better do this again. Hurry up. The season might end soon. Let's put more flowers out. And so that's what they do. They put more flowers out. And so the bees will do their thing. They'll pollinate. And they'll try to, so the plant can actually form a new seed. And so if you keep deadheading your flowers, the plant never puts any energy into producing seed. It just focuses it in on flowers. And that's how you get plants to bloom more frequently. Now, if you're doing that, plants, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to produce a flower like that. And so it's not like you just give it some water and it's going to be fine. No, you need to actually give it some meat and potato kind of stuff, some nitrogen, some phosphorus, some potash. A good balanced organic fertilizer makes a huge difference. And so I sprinkled, when I got done trimming back my lilac, I went ahead and sprinkled some 744 all-purpose plant food over the root zone of that plant. And then I also, just because I want it to be over for 4th of July, sometime in July, I want this lilac, the entire backyard, to smell of lilac again for 2 months. And so I juiced it again with flower power. I gave it 2 things. One was a granular food. This is for the long term. For the next 3 months, it'll just break down and slowly fertilize this plant. So I get more penicles, more of those flowers, more of those bracts that cover the top side of this lilac. In addition, I add a water-soluble food. It's called Flower Power. It's 48% phosphorus, nitrogen, phosphorus, potash. That middle number, the higher that middle number you can get, the more flowers it will produce. And it's water-soluble. So it's available to the plant like today, like right now. So if you just sheared back that lilac or a butterfly bush or a rose, whatever repeat blooming thing you have, if you cut back those flowers, spent flowers, you give it some fertilizer and you give it some liquid phosphorus, like right now, you are guaranteed. I mean, it's just going to happen. You're going to have this thing bloom again. I'd say the same thing would go for echinacеas, gaillardias, these perennial flowers that spend a lot of energy focused on flowers to set seed so that they can, if you just pinch those off, give it some more phosphorus, and you can get this thing to repeat bloom. Carnations, they'll repeat bloom like 6 times in the season. Maybe you can get it to nonstop flower with those little few tips. Now, we're a couple weeks off from Mother's Day, and so we just sold literally thousands of hanging baskets, these big, beautiful. We grow an extra large hanging baskets, more soil, so the flowers will grow more. If you're not fertilizing those hanging baskets, you're flowering things with a water-soluble phosphorus. Flower Power is what we make here at Waters Garden Center. So Flower Power, it's 48% phosphorus. That's that middle number, forces more flowers. You need to be fertilizing your flowering things at least twice a month with a good, solid, water-soluble plant food. If you're doing that, it will continue to bloom. If you don't, it'll get wispier and thinner, and it'll stop blooming. And within by the end of June, it'll just be this beautiful green plant, no flowers, or very few. And you'll blame, oh, it's the wind, or it's the bugs, or it's something else. No, it's you. You didn't give him enough food. You're starving this little puppy dog out there in the yard. Why would you do that? You wouldn't do it to a puppy dog. Why would you do it to your flowers? So you need to give them more regular plant food. And part of this is because of the mountains of Arizona. We've got this very heavy water. Oh my gosh, it locks up minerals. It doesn't allow the plant to get to it. So you're fertilizing more often here in the mountains of Arizona because of our water. Mainly, it's the enemy. So it's got real high pH, heavy minerals. So you need the right kind of food. And I would say, for the love of gardening, please, everyone, stop using Miracle-Gro. My goodness, that stuff is killing your plants. It does not actually form more flowers. It's a salt-based fertilizer. And you're adding it to this heavy mineral watered stuff. You wonder why you're struggling. It's because you're using the wrong kind of stuff. My goodness. So you've tuned into the right place. So deadhead flowers, give them a good Flower Power, water-soluble food. For the bigger things, give them some granular stuff, so all-purpose plant food. And with those 2 little magic tips, it'll be a game changer for how much color and fragrance and beauty, hummingbirds and butterflies will be in your gardens. Okay, we got Lisa Waterslane coming in. Got to take a break, pay a couple bills. We'll be right back after this.